here with a quick and dirty ENVE MOG bike check before I have to go hop on an airplane to Wisconsin. This is my exact last best ride winning setup, and I'll give you guys the tour. We are here outside my garage in this fancy location. First up, and most importantly, size 52 stock ENVE MOG. They released this bike this past spring as their first gravel / off-road bike, and yeah, I mean, it rips. Full major features of the frame, lots of mounting options for fenders, water bottle mounts, etc., for bike packing, you name it. Pretty slick little storage compartment with these frame bags, so I never have to ride with a saddlebag. There's room for 2 of those sleeves in there. If you wanted to put on a saddlebag, you could fill this with gummy bears or meat sticks. Major feature is 50 mil clearance front and rear, which is stock, and you can run that with 700cc wheels, not 650. Another slick feature is their UDH derailleur hanger, which is that universal hanger. Personal favorite feature of mine is a lack of a drop stay, because I think droopy drop stays look terrible. Moving on to drivetrain, I get a lot of questions about this. This is a Garbrook 48 tooth chainring, because I didn't want to buy a SRAM Aero chainring to go with and replace my power meter, because that's too much money. I run SRAM red cranks over force because it saves, I believe, about 1/4 pound, and it's kind of the most bang for your buck in terms of SRAM red versus force. And up here I have a wolf tooth chain keeper, just like Jumbo Visma uses, except I cut the top off of it, which saved me about 8 grams because I have a hacksaw and I was bored. And in the rear I have a classic, mega mullet setup, 1052 cassette, X01 mountain bike derailleur, because it's $100 more for the XX1. You only save 10 grams, so weight weenie budget edition. Next up, I like to run road pedals on my gravel bike. These are Shimano Dura-Ace because, Shimano just makes the best road pedals. But I really like the stiffness, the power transfer, and the improved pedaling dynamics of running road cleats, because, you're pedaling a gravel bike like a road bike, and it's just different than mountain biking, and I really like that stiffness and support. So some people may think running road pedals on a gravel bike is a little odd, but if you think about it, you're really not off the bike that much in most races, or at least I don't plan to be. Even this past weekend with the Bighorn Sheep Scramble at the last best ride, I ran maybe 75 feet in road cleats, which was fine. Now I have pretty minimal clearance here for this chainring. The specs for this bike say 46 tooth max, so I do not necessarily recommend running a 48 tooth, but it can be done. If it were to be a muddy event like Unbound or something else, I would definitely not do this, because I would for sure break my frame, because there's just not enough clearance realistically for actual mud. As I mentioned, also, Quark acts as power meter, get all the data for training and racing, etc. Onto wheels, I'm running the ENVE AG25s with Industry 9 classic center lock disc hubs. Industry 9 is one of my other partners, so it's a great combo to build up all these great rims on these pretty much, as good as hubs as you could possibly get, and kind of a match made in heaven. And I'm pretty stoked to have both their support. I ran 45mm Challenge Getaway XPs. XP stands for Extra Protection. It's their new casing, and these are leaps and bounds ahead of their other tires that I've used in the past. I'm really impressed. And also, I believe they have one of the lowest rolling resistances of any gravel tire on the market. I ran the 45mm tires because of the extra chunk on the course at the last best ride. Definitely changes depending on where I'm racing and what I'm riding, but it's definitely pretty dependent on what the course is like. That kind of decides what challenge tires I want to run. And then those also pair up really well with the AG25s, 25mm internal rims, I believe, and that wider rim profile really matches up well with the beefier tire and really allows you to get the most out of your tire pressure. And I believe I ran 27 PSI in the front and 28 PSI in the rear this past Sunday in Whitefish. I've also become a fan of tire inserts for gravel. I usually use a cush core insert because that's all I've tried so far. It really just eliminates a lot of any remaining chance of a puncture in a gravel race, especially a big event. It weighs almost nothing. This past event, I only had a cush core in the rear because I forgot the front insert at home when I went on vacation. And I put it in the rear because that's usually where you take the biggest hits. And again, yeah, weighs almost nothing. I really like it. Just gives you a lot of peace of mind, and those rim hits that could potentially give you a puncture with the cush core, it basically eliminates the chance of that. Up to the cockpit, I have SRAM force levers because again, they weigh almost no different from red, and I don't want to pay for that price difference. I have the K-Edge integrated computer and GoPro / light mount, which is super clean for training, etc. And then I'm running their SES AR road bar, 42 centimeter in the hoods, the slight flare, which is about, I think it's 47 in the drops, and gives just pretty incredible stability on the road, any descent, etc. For rotors, I have a 160 in the front and a 140 in the rear because it saves weight and it gives plenty of stopping power still. One unsung hero is these ENVE CIM cages, which are absolutely bomb-proof and you cannot lose a bottle out of. And I had to look it up, but CIM stands for carbon injection molded, or molding. And yeah, these are their new kind of off-road specific cages, different from their road cages. They are absurdly light, and yeah, I mean, they lock the bottles in there. One more feature on this frame is a threaded T47 bottom bracket, which is phenomenal because I hate press fit, and you should too. Finally, I'm running a Bontrager Aeolus saddle because this is what I've used for years. And I really like it. And then I am running a 110 millimeter stem in the front. Yeah, this setup is it's clean. The lines are clean. There's no cables. Everything's tucked away. It is just one mean machine. They did not play around when they decided to release this bike, and the folks at ENVE came correct and ready when they were ready to drop it. I think that covers it. Let me know what I missed or what other questions you still have. I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, this drivetrain setup gives me a huge range for fast road miles, fast racing and for gravel, huge gear ratio for climbing. Yeah, this bike is pretty darn aero for a gravel bike, I'd say. So yeah, that covers it. If there's any other questions you have, like I said, leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And since I'm sure the first comment I get will be, what is the weight? This thing is just around 19 pounds with this setup. It's definitely not the lightest setup, but it's geared to do what I need it to do, which is survive gnarly gravel racing at a high pace, which means you can't weight weed on tires. The cush core is important, almost crucial. And everything else is really a factor. Same with the cassette and the chainring. Like, yeah, there's lighter options out there, but this is the setup I like and I want for what I'm trying to do with it, which is primarily climb up mountains in Montana.